Just do the one.
Oh, you could probably just talk and then your microphone's going to pick up here.
Okay.
Yep.
So just so you're aware of, I forgot to hit the record button last meeting. I went to redo the minutes and I didn't have the file. And then when I redid the minutes, my Word file was corrupted. So I didn't want to panic and we rush in, do the minutes. I'll have them at the next meeting. But this time I made sure we're recording for this meeting. So I apologize for that. But we'll get to the next meeting.
Gotcha. All right. So we don't have meetings from last meeting and come on, this is being so difficult. Yeah. And you have the ridership report, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So the ridership report, as you can see, I think the last time we met was through February. So March, I don't know if we had February. So February, March, and April. For the Express, we're increasing from the year before, mainly because 21 is still a large COVID year. Averaging for February, we averaged 22 riders per day. So that's kind of morning and afternoon. March, 24. For April, 21 per day for that. And then the Monona Lift, that's up compared to last year, 450 overall so far through the first. Sorry.
Is that the tornadoes?
Yeah.
So the lift is up through the first third of the year, 450. So that number has increased from the year before. Even during COVID, the lift stayed pretty steady. So it's kind of getting back to the normal years. For that, I think a lot of too with the lifts, with some of what's happening too, a little bit the lift, it's a little misleading because the lift is picking up people who probably would have been riding the Express, and I've been told. So the number is up a little bit because of that, but it's not all. So there's some Express riders that are riding the lift, but majority is for the senior. It's most mainly the lift people.
Okay. So we're looking at 21 rides per day. Is that what we're looking at?
21, yeah.
Okay.
For the Express for the last month, like April, 21 per day. For the lift, about 24 per day. So.
And then just to clarify, that's that could be because of people are going both ways. So
Yes.
both trips are counted for 21
Correct.
rides per
So
day.
each time you get on, it's considered a ride. per
Gotcha.
day. So you split divided by 2.
So we're looking at like 10 riders.
10 ride morning for the Express, probably 10.
Mhm.
10 and a half, 12 March. The lift, 24 in April, 24 in February, 21.
That's the average.
That's it.
Average trip. So again, same situation with probably 12 riders a day.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any discussion about the ridership report?
Just a note that it seems that, the lift has been returned right back to pre-COVID levels of use, but the Express has not rebounded to pre-COVID levels, it looks like, still. It looks like we're still at a third to a half of our pre-COVID ridership for the Express. I'd be curious if, Madison is seeing kind of same things.
I don't know, but I don't know if it's, is it COVID or is it because of the, lack of loops right now?
As a rider, I'll say lack of loops.
Yeah. Because we're down. When does the lift stop at this point? It stops at what, 2 o'clock? Is that roughly around 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Any other questions or seeking more information about the ridership report? All right. First student updates.
Yeah, so first student update is basically just was talking with their general manager, and they said they have 2 people in training. So they hired basically 2 people. They got to get through their training process. and they'll be ready to go here fairly soon. The question they asked me is, do you guys even want to go back to the normal loop system? He asked me if we received any complaints or what the process was. And I told him, yeah, we want to go back to what we were before, with the loops in the morning and the afternoon. So that was a question. So hopefully, he says they have 2 people, they're going through training and going through all the testing that's required to get their license. So I'm hoping here, we say within the next 2 weeks, at least one of them will be ready to go. We did talk about new buses with first students. So they're aware of the Madison issue, Metro. So this process right now, they're not going to order a new bus. Apparently totally pulled off on a new bus. So
Okay.
just so you're aware of that.
Any questions about the first student update?
Do they know when they'll have these trainees in the seat?
He told me 2 weeks. So if they make it through their process. So they've been, every time they'd say we have somebody ready to go, never happens. So
If and when that does happen, is that something that riders can expect to see like on the website, on the public transit website?
yes, we would put that out there on one on the website and also on the Translock system to update that.
So we've got a couple people in the pipeline for first student. And we need to talk if we're going to increase those loops. And that moves us on to the continuing discussion about Madison Metro and the survey specifically.
Yeah. So I got a couple things in there before kind of the survey, because Diane asked me to put this in here. Was kind of talked about at the last meeting, where did the seniors, where they get on it. So she went back, she's been corresponding with,
Never mind.
what's that?
Oh, sorry, guys. I froze. I'm back.
Oh, okay.
She contacted Todd, is his name, for first student. She was able to figure out for March where the locations were. Monona Hills, there's 10 different riders. Heritage, 4 different riders. Frostwoods, 2 Frostwoods, 5 different riders. And then 23 that are not associated with the senior housing. So there was about an average of 41 different riders of March. So, you know, if you go back to the ridership report for the lift, you know, it says 24 per day. So, you know, each different day they're going to have somebody, might be the same person every day, but sometimes there's going to be different people. So, with Diane and Todd talking, they thought there was 41 different riders for the whole month, for the month of March. I guess some people might just go get their hair done one day, and then a different person might be, you know, shopping somewhere else a different day. I wouldn't include that in there, and also she wanted me to include feedback from the other communities using the Madison Metro system. So I included the Fitchburg, Middleton, and Sun Prairie analysis. That this is what Diane typed up and she gave it to me. So just wanted to give that to you.
And what was do you have, did you send a copy of the analysis for Sun Prairie? Like the information?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And so everyone has a copy of that. Okay. And
so kind of segueing into the survey, I did put a copy of there. So kind of like the next step, I think we kind of, you know, talked about doing the survey. So I did actually call Sun Prairie and kind of get their feel. They actually spent a lot of time doing a lot of research. They hired UW, Wisconsin River Falls. They did this survey for them. And it's been going on for a while. You know, Sun Prairie and Monona are a lot different because there's an east side, west side, Sun Prairie, you know, larger scale. So there's a lot of issues with, you know, one side of the city to the other side we don't have to deal with as much. So they were just that was one of their part of their scope, and the other part was driving into Madison. And things like that. So I just put this in there, kind of their feedback they received from their survey, and just kind of example of maybe what type of questions we want for our survey. I think through the survey, I'd like to get out as soon as possible, get it out, blast it out there, and start getting some feedback, and then get an analysis put together on that. So I did talk to them also about their senior, that's been a situation. I did say, how's the senior? How did that go? They said they had a lot of negative feedback right away, but they said it came down to they're starting to feel a lot better because of Madison Metro does a really good job of explaining the process. So he recommended that we get Madison Metro in here, which I think we talked about, to kind of do a lot of, meetings, public hearings, just so a lot of seniors can figure out how to use it. And so it's actually, he's got a lot of more positive feedback after, Metro's doing a lot of public hearings, or not public hearings, but just going to different senior centers, tell them how it all works, what the advantages and things like that. So that was a positive. He said it wasn't negative to start, and just turning the corner. I guess I'm not sure where you want to start. How do you want to start this?
Yeah, so start the discussion about survey questions, what we're looking for, what we want to have included. And obviously we don't have the budget to go to an outside company like
Right.
Sun Prairie did. So we'll have to do this internally. And I guess we want to be careful too, to not ask questions that, a lot of times surveys can be done in such a way that you can kind of influence the outcome. So we want to make sure that we have pretty objective survey questions that we're not leading the answer for, I suppose. So does anybody have any thoughts on questions that they might want to include, or at least how they would be structured?
Well, I guess I should out myself real quick before we dig into this, that Doug and I worked together with, former members of the committee and Mark putting together a survey a little while ago. And I have a number of years of experience doing survey research and analyzing, coming up with surveys, running questions. And I'm happy to, again, support in that kind of pseudo professional capacity as a volunteer with the committee, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm happy to kind of, previously I kind of took a lot of our ideas and put together kind of the first draft of the survey, circulated for kind of input from different folks, was able to help work with somebody in Mark's office. I'm not remember exactly who, but to build it.
Was that from 2021, that survey in October, November?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and certainly we can do a lot better than that, I think. Better outreach, a little bit more connectivity to certain parts of the community, and as Diane pointed out, having both online and paper versions for people to fill out. So, yeah.
Awesome.
One thing that I was just looking at the Sun Prairie information that you sent, Mark, and I was trying to like reverse engineer some of the things that they talked about to devise some questions. So I have some drafts of those, but one of the things that so one of them is like rank the factors that might determine your likelihood to use public transit, and some of the things that could be selected are basically like the different options based on time availability, destinations, frequency of pickup that they identify in the Sun Prairie, survey analysis. But one of the things, one of the things that I think would be really nice if we could do is to figure out, because it strikes me that like Monona Lift, some of the people who are taking it are really taking it because they have to, like they cannot drive. There's no other option. And I think it would be great if we could have a question. And I was really struggling to try to write it in a way, like you were saying, Patrick, like the way you write something could shape the way people respond to it. And I was trying to write it in a way that didn't show my cards. And like, I was trying to think of a question where we could say, we could prompt people to sort of identify whether they are currently using public transit or envision themselves using it based on certain necessities versus preferences, so that we know, like, are we serving people, like if everyone responds that they want it to be available on weekends only, is it because it's a bunch of people who have cars and can afford to drive to work but want to be able to go to the farmer's market on the square, or are we getting responses from people who like need to go to work on the square on the weekend, to work at a restaurant or something, like just to gauge who public transit, like what the demand is coming from. I don't know if that makes sense, but like to help people identify whether they might use it because they're unable to drive for some of the older folks, whether they don't have access to a car, whether they have access to a car but can't afford parking, gas, whatever, whether there's like some environmental reason, just to kind of suss out why people want to use public transportation, which is maybe something that I didn't have enough time to look at the Sun Prairie thing, but I'm not sure that that's totally addressed there.
Mhm. And, I'm not sure how we would, other than, ask people to like voluntarily give demographic information during the survey.
Yeah. It's
But
kind of
that's-
tricky.
Yeah, right. Are you a senior?
Sorry, guys.
No, go ahead.
We have a proposal from the city of Madison or Madison Metro to operate a surface in a specific way without many options given to us. We practically have 0 options. We have the 2 routes that differ by 1 street. And then we have our current service. And I feel like the most useful questions will be asking residents if they prefer the service we currently provide to what Madison Metro would provide. I don't know what other information we could use beyond that, because if we find out all this information about what and why people want to use it or where they want to go, there's nothing we can really do to change what options we have from Madison Metro.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
And
guess it might just
we're
be
not embarking on this to improve the lift or the express service, as far as I know, unless we change our mind and want to do that.
it's almost, yeah, I guess it's almost like that question would only be helpful if I was thinking back to what Nancy said last time, like, we have this, like, we have these 2 options and we're stuck here, but like maybe we could create something else. And obviously we can't do that right now, but if we just kind of glommed on a question like this, so that, like, say we went with Madison Metro and it didn't work out, we might at least have this information, in our back pocket for trying to solve the problem again, which hopefully doesn't happen. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's not going to help us get out of the hole, stay
Mhm.
with the thing, or go to Madison Metro.
No,
Otherwise we could have a very nebulous survey,
Hmm.
but we've kind of had those already. And I think what city officials need are specific directives that support a decision that has some political vulnerability to it, because it's a big change from what we currently have. And you got to find out, I guess, if people support it or not. Like anecdotally, we've heard that people think we should contract with Madison Metro. But now that it's able, I think we have to share that with them, what that means, and see if they still think that's a good idea. That would be the focus of the survey that I would write.
and yeah, and I think, questions about, do we want availability? Do people want availability, like transportation to be available beyond 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Do they want to be able to get from downtown back to Monona after work, which right now it's pretty difficult with the current lift system? And I think we also have to take into consideration that our ridership is, we're looking at like 12 riders a day right now. That is such a tiny amount when you think about it. So we have to be cognizant of the people that need to have that, that access to transportation that they don't have. But at the same time, we have to provide services that the bulk of Monona will appreciate and hopefully use. And Mark, did you have something?
Well, I do think is a question too, also, does Monona, the city council, they want these buses driving down residential streets? Is that, is that a question that question too? Is that?
There's a lot of questions. I mean, some people have said they don't want the buses driving down residential streets, but the buses drive down residential streets in Madison and other communities as well. And it's an access and equity issue with transportation to be able to link up to the rest of the communities, to be able to live in Monona and take the bus somewhere else in the metro area to go to work if you wanted to, as opposed to the system that we currently have. So, to construct these survey questions with all of the information that we would love to have is going to be fairly tedious. And I would kind of defer to, someone who has had experience putting the survey questions together before. I'm really like that insight, I think, is important.
Can we put this on a ballot as a referendum instead? And inform people about the differences between the two services and just have it voted on by the residents, rather than trying to either put together a non-persuasive survey that doesn't suggest that you should like one thing or another better, even though it's like, would you rather have a service that only runs during the week, or one that runs the whole week, or one that only runs part of the day, or one that runs all the time? Like, I don't know, if you start to compare those things, it's like
Doug and Addie, like as people have done this before, I mean, the one thing I was thinking about is like, there are people who will fill out the surveys and they'll have no intention of ever taking public transit, and they won't even go down their street. And it's like, how do you identify the people who are actually gonna like actually have a dog in the fight in writing these surveys? Because it's like,
and if you have a group of people that find out that a bus is going to go down their street and don't like it, they're going to circulate it to all their neighbors, and they're all going to fill it out. And you're going to get a networked group responding in a very particular way that benefits them. And there'll be other people that have less, they just aren't savvy and networked and ready to respond in political action. I don't know. I just feel like this is flawed, and I want to come up with a way that it works, I want us to just truly evaluate this as a commission and decide with our hearts what we think is best serves the priorities of the community in the most effective, cost-effective way possible. We could spend a lot of time trying to collect data and then wonder if what we collected is really valid. Sorry, Laura, I know you're muted and it looks like you're maybe saying something, but we can't hear you.
I am. I'm non-verbally. Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And I hear people using the word inform over. And I think an informational kind of survey, it's very transparent. There's the council is going to need to make a difficult decision, and there's this and there's this, and what if and then maybe some questions. But I think you're right, Doug, and you could ask a lot of questions, but really the question here to be answered is A or B.
And I looked through that executive summary for Sun Prairie, and I don't know what action I would take from that information.
So does it make more sense to just provide a plain language readable summary with the options and have some sort of a hearing where people can raise the issues, and then have us decide a recommendation based on that rather than getting more information that won't make the decision about what to recommend any easier?
Mhm. I
Well,
mean,
and
I would rather do a public input session any day than
Yeah.
lots of surveys.
we talked about doing the public input sessions and we want to do
Yeah.
those public hearings. So, I mean, do we need to do the survey as well?
I guess the reason why we talked, it was more coming from the mayor, was talking to her. She thought the council was gonna want some data
Mhm.
to support their decision, one way or the other, so, you know, survey, one way they can support the data. And it could give, like Doug just said, some group that might not like the bus on a certain road is gonna come out and vote no for everything.
Mhm.
So how they can use that data. So I agree. But I didn't know, Mayor has talked to me, well, you want data, how do we get the data that they, can use to make their decision?
Yeah. And I was like, when we did our last survey, my goal was really to just ask broad questions about what kinds of transportation people would use and how many trips a day they would take, things like that. Really, really just about trips in and out of the city, by whom and how.
Mhm.
And that would be the data I think that they would want.
And additionally, the strong support for merging, the lots of comments on merging with Madison Metro. I'd like to be able to use the broader community bus systems. Why is it, that is in there as well. It's a little dated, but it's, a year and a half old.
It was like a heat map type of a concept. It's like, what's the traffic, where's the traffic coming to and from Monona, like that's so hard to collect, but like, that's really what would inform the feasibility of a service.
Would you just do a survey, like Doug says, you just put 5 questions on it? Do you want Madison Metro? I mean, just kind of easy, basic questions, is that?
I don't know, I'm thinking Laura's thing was like, or Jillian, whenever, who said it, but just to send out information that's really just clearly describing the differences between the two services, talk about the pros and the cons, what we gain and lose.
Mhm.
Make sure every mailbox in Monona gets that, and then it announces the public hearings that people can then come and share their feelings about
Mhm.
2 options. I don't know. And then, I don't know. I really like the idea of having people vote on it, but I don't know I don't know how any of that works, but
There would be a significant expense by doing a referendum on this as well.
so we probably wouldn't want it.
Right.
And devising the question would be kind of a nightmare, and then people can sue you about the way you worded it.
Mhm.
Forget I said
So
that.
there were some comments at the end of the Sun Prairie report, and a few of them that really struck me were, I'm not going to use this service, but boy, if there are seniors who need it, we should do what they need. And that's kind of, I think, what you were getting at, Jillian. And I don't know how you would ask questions like that without being pretty biased.
I think we've talked about almost the senior portion, like seniors that the 12 or 14 people that are using the lift a day right now, that I know that Nancy and I were talking about trying to figure out, independent of Madison Metro, if there's something that we'd be able to figure out in Monona to kind of supplement Metro, but to also have the senior organizations also participate in. So, nobody wants to leave anyone behind. It's just a matter of how do we, like government in general, how do we take care of everyone?
Mhm.
Well, and the gap, as I understand it, between the 2 big systems, like who is the most vulnerable is not the right word, but the most affected individuals are those that are able to take Monona Lift, but would not qualify for Madison Paratransit.
That's right.
Right. And yes, I agree. Madison Paratransit is really challenging. I mean, I'm a full-time commuter. When I fell and sprained an ankle and couldn't bike to work for 6 weeks, I had to try and go through that process and ended up giving up and riding in a car with somebody to UW every day. It is a challenge, but it is available. And so, you know, for me, I'm trying to figure out who is the segment of individuals who don't have the ability to get themselves to provide their own transportation, but are yet not qualified as disabled under Madison's system in order to be able to access a lift. Like those are the folks that I'm really kind of honing in on, because it sounds like, you know, for individuals that qualify for the lift, they seem to be getting okay-ish service, but not great service. Oh, this is tough.
Mhm.
And I admit, guys, I've talked to like 20 neighbors of mine trying to say, like, guys, which way should we go with this?
What did you
And
hear? I'm curious.
yeah, so I mean, when the top line is kind of, we're thinking of merging with Madison bus service and bringing bus through town, they say it's great. How much more is it going to cost? And I said, no, they have a proposal to us that's about cost neutral. So taxes, as far as we know, property taxes are not going to be affected if we switch over to Metro. And they're like, oh, that's fantastic. Great. Why aren't we doing this? And then I say, well, one of these services that we offer in our community is door-to-door transit for people over 65. And that program will be much more limited. And so there will be older adults in our community that aren't able to get around. And then everybody goes, oh, well, what do we do? Right? Because it then becomes this like waiting value-based challenge that I think Doug has been touching on and Jillian's been touching on. And Laura, I think I hear a little in your voice. It's, you know, are we trying to do something that affects a broader swath of the Madison population or the Monona population beneficially, but adversely harms a small group of Monona residents a lot? You know, for me, admittedly, I'm very dismissive of, oh, I don't want the bus going in front of my house complaints. It comes off as NIMBYism, to be honest. Like, we want the bus here, but just not in front of my house.
Yep.
I admit I dismiss those kind of complaints. You know.
Uh-oh.
Did you freeze there?
While Addie's frozen, I'll say that
Some back,
hilariously.
not have to worry about driving home. Yay!
You froze there for a second, so we missed that last.
It was
Oh,
an anecdote about drinking and riding the bus. Sorry.
Oh, drinking while riding the bus?
No,
That's another great thing about public transit. You can have a drink after work
Yes.
if you're on the isthmus.
Mhm. So
I was at the bus stop before coming here, and a former coworker who lives on the Madison side of Monona Drive, was like, "Oh, I think I'm going to switch over to Monona Express soon because of the new Madison bus routes, because I'll have to walk X many miles to get to my bus." And I was like, "Oh, well, we'll see about that."
well, getting back onto the agenda item with survey questions, I don't think any of us are going to think of any survey questions this evening.
Well, so is it something we want to, like you were talking about, write something up and then get that out? But I still think the council's gonna want something.
Yes, everybody's going to want something because nobody is going to want to make this decision without as much information as possible. I mean, I'll be completely upfront. I mean, I support regional transportation and concept. I do. I think it's a good thing for communities. I think it's a good thing to give people access. And but there's things that we need to work out about it, obviously. So, but you know, I'm totally open about it. In concept, I'm in favor of it, but I don't want to leave anyone behind.
Patrick, could you, as a representative from the council, tell us or make a effort to find out what it is that the council wants to know
Mhm.
data-wise? Because here's one thing that I'll complain about as a member of this commission for like 7 or 8 years.
Yes.
Not once has the council actually asked us to do anything. then just drop dead.
Gotcha. Okay.
Seriously, though, there's never been any direction like, you know what, as a body of governing, we want the Transit Commission to advance this initiative.
Mhm.
The only thing that we've ever really had is kind of a gentle suggestion was to increase ridership, which we did through a marketing campaign,
Mhm.
we think. So before we write a survey that maybe does or does not answer the questions the council would have to help them make a decision, could we find out what would be useful
Sure.
in that
Mhm.
process?
I wonder if it's just a matter of articulating. So we were talking about like at some point there's going to have to be public information campaign where we explain the two choices, what the pros and cons of each are.
Mhm.
It seems like it would be worth reverse engineering that so that we articulate the pros on both sides and the cons on both sides, and then frame those as like in the survey questions. Instead of asking people to choose one or the other, say, what are your top priorities? And then list all the different advantages of the two different things and see what people select. So if, one of the things they select is ease of transferability with other metro systems like Madison Metro, they're not saying I want to go with Madison Metro, but they're putting that as one check mark in the Madison Metro option. But if we'll also have as one of the options, ability for older and disabled residents to have access to services throughout the day or something like that, just list all of the pros and ask people to identify their priorities, so that they're articulating those without positioning themselves on a side.
I think that is probably, Jillian, I think that gets back to what I was hoping if we did a survey, we would accomplish, and that would be directly comparing the assets of each system and having people rank their preferences for which assets serve them the best.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say +1 to what Jillian's putting up there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that there would be some kind of, if the decision were to go with Madison Metro, that there'd be some kind of auxiliary service to
Hmm.
for seniors?
So nothing.
No.
No, I mean, we talk about not wanting to leave that core group of folks behind that are currently relying on the Lyft service, and may not qualify for paratransit, but there's nothing specific about that yet. So the idea is that we're exploring what kind of options there might be, but funding is certainly limited. We couldn't do this and then devote another $60,000 or $80,000 to that core group of people. That's not going to happen.
Is that what it would cost?
I'm just throwing a number out there. I'm just thinking because depending on how it was done, we'd have to contract with another service. They'd want some guarantee that it'd be worthwhile for them to do it. So I know some people have floated ideas about, well, why doesn't Monona just buy a bus? But then there's all kinds of other costs that get incurred with that too. So I mean, we're thinking.
Last time I left, the grocery store, there was a little old lady with her walker and her groceries waiting for her ride.
Mhm.
For Lyft to come, and I don't think that she would have qualified for the Madison Metro service.
Yeah, and that's the problem. We don't want to leave anybody behind, but at the same time, we're operating a service.
Oh, I understand, but so there is not a way to compensate.
Well, there might be. We just don't know. I mean, like I said, we're talking about it. I don't want to say no because Nancy and I were adamant about trying to find like $10,000 worth of seed money to work with Heritage and some other places to maybe run one of their buses for things like that. Or maybe there's something we could do with Uber or Lyft or Madison Taxi or Green Cab or the Tesla cab service or something. I mean, there's always a creative solution somewhere.
Okay.
And when we're talking about 12 people a day, that's not a lot of people. So it should
20,
be
20 rides,
20 rides, yeah. But
which is $7,500 a month
yes.
and then $9,000 a year if it's a $15 ride. I did the math because I was like, I wonder how many Uber rides we could pay for.
Good, I'm glad you did. Because that's kind of what I was thinking. That's great.
We've all crunched that.
Yes. So, and right now the fare for the fare for Lyft is what? What is,
$150.
it's $1.50. Yes,
If you get a card.
yes, $1.50.
I know we talked a lot
Formality.
about the seniors,
Mhm.
but you also gotta remember, a lot of it too is with Madison Metro is, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. So these would stop along a lot of the,
Mhm.
the apartment complexes, would bring people in, lower income people that maybe want to work in Madison, and stop in Monona to work, in certain areas, or people who couldn't ride the Monona Express could maybe now ride the Madison Metro and go somewhere else to work. So there is that
Yep.
part. I know we focus a lot on the seniors. That's one part of the diversity,
Yeah.
equity, inclusive, but there's also the other side too, with that, that's, the tough part. With the Madison Metro, you have those additional routes that, you do have the express, basically what you do have kind of the express route still. It's basically the same thing as the express. But you also have the routes coming into Monona that I can't remember the exact number of it.
Mhm.
It goes down Broadway and up Monona Drive.
Yeah.
So you have
Yep.
those stops too. So you have a lot of that too, you're picking up.
And those buildings too, the ones that we've approved on the plan commission,
Yeah.
those buildings are considered affordable. So
Yeah.
we've got them on East Broadway there, and some others as well over by the Monona Family Garden Restaurant too. So we want to
And
be.
the apartment complex going up at Owen will be literally on the bus line.
Yep, and that's also something that we need to think about. So, and we insulate ourselves to some degree with not having these transportation issues in the future if we go with Madison Metro, because then we're not at the behest of a small company that can't attract drivers, that doesn't offer the same sort of pension plan that the city of Madison does, that Madison Metro does. And it's a much more attractive opportunity to be a Madison bus driver.
And I kind of keep the headline in my mind is, with no increase in taxes, we're able to expand public transportation in our community to 7 days a week, 6 a.m. till 9 p.m.
Fantastic.
I mean, that alone,
That's great. Sounds great.
explodes
Mhm.
the possibilities for getting around our community.
Now, on the other side, just so you know, as an alder, I've gotten some communication from folks, one in particular, actually, there's more than one, that reached out because they're upset. Because if we bring buses to Madison, then, well, we're opening up ourselves to people from outside of Madison possibly living here. Or we open ourselves up to, one particular comment was, oh, all those houses around Winnequa Park, they're going to be HUD homes and blah, blah, blah. And people are going to start moving in. And it's the kind of stuff that is exactly, well, why we want bus service to some degree. You know what I mean? It's like that's going to be that will be some of the pushback for sure.
Well, and if people don't want their property taxes going up, they're going to have to be open to more people moving into our community.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, we're going to have to start replacing sewer lines and
Yes.
roads and all of that sort of expensive infrastructure. And we have to have more density.
Yep. Anyway,
And buses are the enabler of more density. Public
Yes.
transportation is the enabler of more density.
And one more thing, going back to the DEI. So city council has been working, had a committee set up, kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. They presented a report to the city council last city council meeting, which was around June 6th, I believe. The second read, so approve it on June 20th. This report, that we're approve acceptance, this report, the DEI report, which I should have sent it out. I'll send it to everyone. In there, there's a lot of talk of the Madison Metro is one of their goals.
Mhm.
So I want to send, so I think that report and whatever we kind of think about here, I think that'll help the city council make the decision too. So I'll send that report out so you can take a look at it and read through it. But one of those reports, one of the suggestions in there is Madison Metro. So it was harped on more than once in the report, so.
Yep. So I think we need to figure out what we're doing
Correct.
and whether we're going to come up with those survey questions, some survey questions, or how we're going to proceed at this point.
I'm thinking what Julian was talking about, is that how we want to proceed?
I mean, I get that's the general consensus. How does everybody feel about that? And exactly what?
There's a big education component to this survey,
Mhm.
right? And I'm thinking about it more along the lines of work that I do in the medical field under what we call shared decision making. It's how does someone make a decision between this form of surgery or that form of surgery, right? With complex decisions, pros and cons, and ultimately we can survey the hell out of everybody, but I think people have to understand what's happening first. And so I think we're trying to boil the ocean with an informative survey on the project.
Hmm.
And so I would say that I think we as a transit committee need to be doing informing the community first, then assessing their opinions, because otherwise we're just asking them about something they don't understand. And
Right.
Yeah,
and there's this huge onus on us to try and craft like this perfect survey in a really short period of time to get feedback on a decision that it sounds like has to be made by the end of the summer, early fall.
We have a little flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility.
Oh, we do.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do.
Okay,
They'd
that's
like
good.
us to do that, but I don't think they're going to turn us down if we do it later than they would like us to do it.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, is the
Well-
deciding factor with the survey that the city council wants it? I mean, is that,
Yes, the city council wants the survey, but the city council and the mayor would like to have the survey because we want information. But I think that's a really valid point that Jillian had there regarding, I mean, we can't just ask people these questions blindly without, and I think we need to do a bit of an information campaign. And I think we probably need to do a mailer with information that's explaining what and how this is going to impact people. That we could do.
yeah, I wonder if we could kill two birds with one stone and just have a mailer that provides a tornado warning. That provides
Tornado
a
warning or
watch.
That is,
The phone says warning.
yeah. 0.3 miles from home. That can't be right. Anyway.
that might be right.
Yeah,
Did you just lose your power?
I'm just gonna go to my basement. But something that would be like a plain language description of two options. I mean, I think that would be the hardest part, honing that language. But a plain language description of two of the options, and then an opportunity for people, if they wish, to identify what their priorities are, but sort of dissociate those from saying choose one of these two options,
Mhm.
Mhm.
so that they're informed of the two options, and then without having to pick a side, they will have an opportunity to articulate.
Well, yes. And we could incorporate this informational piece with a couple dates for public hearings too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just happened today to have the San Dominino tour. I'm saying it wrong. They're scheduling, not that we should piggyback, we shouldn't, but we would want to time anything that we do to not conflict with their having meetings and sending out surveys.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll schedule that. We could schedule it between them.
Yeah,
So.
So is the general consensus to do that, to put out an informational piece like that, and then in the informational, whoa, look at
Yeah,
that.
I need to be heading downstairs myself. Come on, doggies.
Yeah, so let's wrap this up pretty quick, I think,
Yeah.
for tonight. So the general consensus seems to be that we would like to put this informational piece together, get it out to Monona residents, and in that informational piece schedule, oh shit. Sideways rain. So it's distracting.
A lot of windows here.
Yeah, lots of windows. So Yeah, informational piece with, what do you think? I guess let's think. We want to do an informational session at the senior center for sure, right? We could do one at the library. And is there another location that we should do one, or just set up two in addition to the senior center at different times so we make sure that as many people as possible can come to them. For me, 3 informational sessions seem to be
That'd be good.
a good number. Oh, we lost power at the city hall.
Yeah, it's dark.
Oh, here comes the generator.
Yeah.
All right. Mhm. Yeah, that wind is crazy.
So,
Yeah. So that seems like that's what we want to do as a commission.
You know,
And I think-
if you wanted to reach a really different audience, I'm in current 2. Between current 1 and 2, there's hundreds of people.
Mhm. Well, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should have one of the, if weather permitting, we can have the informational session in the park there.
Oh, that'd be great.
do you want for the next meeting, I guess, dates and figure that out?
Yes, we should pick the dates.
Should I just send an email out with all the dates? Do
Yes.
we want to meet ahead of time, our ducks in a row first?
Yes, because we want to put that informational piece out.
Yes.
Yes, so I would meet sooner than later so we can work on putting that informational piece together.
If someone wanted to draft that, I'm an editor, I could edit it. I don't know enough yet to write it, but I could certainly edit it.
Awesome.
Sure, we'll get you something.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm totally distracted by the dogs and the storm and all that stuff, but I think the information, once we put that all together, that would be a good basis for us to assemble the survey as well.
Mhm.
Once we have that, then we can start putting together,
Well,
objective.
it makes me wonder too, and sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, it's just the weird digital thing. But it makes me wonder if the survey is necessary, if we're going to be doing the informational piece and having public hearings and getting
Right.
information from the public, is the survey necessary at that point?
It actually might not, I guess, it was more for, mayor talk and
Yep.
some city. They just need information, so is
Mhm.
that information for me to put session enough?
And we do 3 sessions, which gives people ample time and we just got to make sure it's publicized.
Right.
And
And we could have like a précis, like a synopsis of the hearings with quotes and, categorizing it. And I mean, that's something I'd happy to be a scribe. I mean, I might have a baby at some point around then, but depending on when that happens, I could do that.
it'll just be a couple hours and then you can get right back to
I'll
it.
just get back to it.
So, all right, I think we have a path forward here that I think everyone's comfortable with. And then, we'll ask and I'll talk to the mayor too about the survey. And if the survey is even necessary, if we're going to have the public hearings,
Maybe we can use a different word.
Mhm.
They want us to
Input.
gather some data. And we're gonna do that through public hearings rather than.
That's a good point.
For sure, because we
Yeah.
can certainly will, if we mail the entire city information about this, we will certainly receive information back,
Mhm,
good and bad.
mhm.
And
I think we can suggest that the data that we'll be collecting at the hearings will be richer and more informative than someone filling something out online or on paper.
mhm,
So I think we could just, like what you were saying, Laura, it's data.
Mhm.
It's just a different kind of data.
mhm. Okay,
I'm on board.
One last thing for the Mass Metro, I did talk to them just recently, and they're gonna drive the route on the 24th of June at 10 o'clock, and they said, well, anybody's welcome, I'll be riding with them. Anybody's welcome to join us, so I'll send an email out.
yeah, that sounds great.
I'll get one out tomorrow.
Thanks, Mark.
So it's 10 o'clock though in the morning. They'll have people on the bus too if we want to ask questions. So they'll drive the whole route for us. And, they'll tell us if it works or not work too, or whatnot. So
Nice.
All right. Unless there's anything else at this point, due to the weather and everything, and wanting to get out of this building.
Motion
Do you
to
know when the
adjourn.
next meeting would be? Do you have a regular?
Second Wednesday of every month.
Yeah. Do we want,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we want to accelerate that to have another meeting just to work on this informational thing? Or do we want to wait until the next scheduled meeting?
We would be in 3 weeks because we skipped a week.
Yeah.
So we would be in 3 weeks.
So I think 3 weeks is fine.
So the 6th. okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, and that gives us time to
Yeah.
to work on
Nancy
some
might
stuff
be
too.
around.
Nancy will be around. We'll get some more input. So, okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Hi.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good work. Good work.
Stay safe.
Yes.